Hello, everybody. It's Dave Neal, stand-up comedian and host of Bachelor Nation News. Happy Friday to everyone out there. I hope you're having a fantastic day. I've got a somber story to get to involving me. You never want to be part of the story when you're doing the journalism angle of content creation, but here we are. The accuser from Clayton Echard's paternity case, the one that accused him of being the father of her unborn twins, who she has now says she has lost due to miscarriage, even though multiple tests at reputable biology labs have said there's little to no fetal DNA, which is their way of saying there is no babies. They have confirmed there are no babies, and yet this lie continued. We covered it, of course, as no one else at the time really did. Of course, shout out to Reality Steve, and now to Megan Fox, and to Law Vices there, and to anybody else who's covered it. Legal Vices, sorry, I said Law Vices, sorry. You can tell I'm a little flustered right now as I make this video for you. Today is Friday. On Wednesday night, I signed a stipulation in a harassment lawsuit made against me. I was the respondent to it, where Jane Doe, the lady who has also accused Clayton of being the father of unborn twins and got a restraining order against him and a restraining order against all these other men, clearly knows her way in some instances around the legal system, at least in the small court of family law. She had her restraining order against me rejected, the temporary one. And she was never going to take me to court. She was just going to try to inflict as much pain on me as possible. You know, little does she know. I mean, no, not to humble brag, but you know, being a comedian for the last 12 years, you know, the 15 years I've spent in the Screen Actors Guild, I'm like a cockroach at this point. I've worked really hard to share my authentic self, and I've worked real grueling side jobs that have both destroyed me physically, mentally, emotionally, in order to pursue my dreams. Those dreams are to just perform stand-up in front of audiences and make them laugh. And you'll catch me after shows until I'm hoarse, as my voice is right now, talking to as many people as possible. Because that's what I love to do. I love human connection. Sadly, this issue with Jane Doe doesn't live up to that connection. She's written an article about me yesterday, which I guess dropped last night, accusing me of being responsible for, I guess, a crazy troll online. This troll is somebody who's hiding behind a different identity. It may be a crazy lunatic. It may be her. I truthfully don't know. But they are not in my camp. They are not someone that I support. And it appears to me that this is a very weak attempt by Jane Doe to link me to some of the harm being done by her. So, being done by the people online. You know, there are people out there that are unhinged. But, you know, we have a long laundry list of instances where we've never tried to get anybody whatsoever to share anything that would promote violence or even, you know, of the emotional or physical or anything towards this person. That's why I've never said her name, directed anyone to her. Even though legally I could say her name, she's in all these public cases, she's writing articles about me, but she's playing both sides of the coin, which is what we're going to talk about right here. I'm going to share with you some spark notes of this article. It's behind a paywall, which means she kind of wants people to see it, but also will probably use it against me and others for sharing it, because it's like, you know, not that she ever had a problem sharing any of my content. That's also behind a paywall at patreon.com/Dave Neal. So there's this crazy person. They've started reaching out to me in December, in my guess, trying to catch me in some sort of conspiracy to want to harm Jane Doe, which I don't. I don't want to harm Jane Doe. I'm a pacifist. I don't support wars. I don't support violence. I don't support any of that, really. Outside of sports, you know, controlled settings where we play football, baseball, or whatever, I've never been in a physical fight. I'm good at de-escalating. That's what stand-up comedians are really good at. We can get on stage and talk shit to people's face and still not get beat up for it, because there is an art to having conversation in a way that lets people know, like, look, I don't want any harm physically done to anybody. I could say that ad nauseum. It probably turns some of you off. But you have to know, that's the card being used against me by Jane Doe. I signed paperwork that she had. She said, I'll dismiss this case against you if you sign paperwork saying you'll never harm me or you'll never promote any harm towards me, which I never have done. And again, that would be illegal. It would be illegal for me to promote harm against somebody else, for me to incite violence onto others. That would be illegal. So it's akin to me signing paperwork saying, I promise not to murder you. Of course, that's illegal. I would never do that. Regardless of if it was legal or not, it's against my moral code. I do have a moral code. I'm just not afraid of the collateral damage that is done by sharing the consequences to Jane Doe's actions of fraud, deceit, con artistry, and such. That collateral damage should not include, and I pray will never include, any violence towards her whatsoever. But what's very interesting about some of the things she's sharing is all telltale signs point towards her using this crazy troll to her favor to control me. So a lot of people have said, Dave, you should have never signed that paperwork that says you wouldn't hurt her because she's going to use that against you. And look, Clayton decided not to respond to Jane Doe when she said, respond to me or I'm going to go to the police saying I'm worried about and I'm fearful over my babies. He didn't respond and she still brought it to the police. So you understand, there really is no winning in this scenario. The only winning I can do right now is commit to you that I'm going to continue to share my story. If you can hear in the timbre of my voice any amount of lower energy than normal, it is due to the absolute wrecking ball it does to one's emotional state when on the day, February 8th, 2024, I should have and did celebrate my victory, which is that she dismissed this frivolous lawsuit against me, which was used to silence me and to quit me from sharing the truth. If I were to celebrate, like I said, which I did, all of that positive energy is sucked out like a vacuum when I wake up to these types of stories. I want to give credit to my audience. So many people have been very cautious in what they share with me. They say, Dave, I don't want to share this with you because I want to make sure your mental headspace is right. And you don't, I've clearly set boundaries that say, please, when there's something negative, don't just send it to me. At least kind of ask me how I'm doing and talk to me, because it's one thing for me to set a boundary to avoid going into harmful places like specific hate groups and things like that. It's another when it's brought to me on my personal device, which is a device I use to source content materials, network with others, promote stand-up shows, contact friends and family. It's a device that we hope is used for the best possible reasons. I had a great phone call with my sister last night. I actually talked to my mom yesterday, which was nice. I use my phone to share that love. And then sometimes through some weird Trojan horse, things get to me that don't really need to. So I'm okay talking about this this morning, but I'm glad I had the wherewithal to take my phone off of me last night. 2 nights ago is when I got the email from Jane Doe, and I shared this with you. I'll share it with you right here. I made a screen grab just showing how quickly I was going to send this email straight into the archives. It was an email that was entitled Emergency from Jane Doe. I didn't read it because if she has an emergency, I don't need to be the person to help her. She's clearly showed bad faith in any sort of negotiations I've tried to be a part of with getting her any mental help. The only help she wants from me is to delete all of my content, which I've refused to do. It's public information. She's made me a unwilling target of hers, even though she claims I'm the one who is smearing her. She calls me relentless, using her story for financial gain. What you have to realize is my channel's very successful. It already was very successful for 3 years before her story came along. Any amount of coverage I make covering her story takes away from other stories I can cover and make a lot of money doing. So it's not necessarily for financial gain. It's almost me on the defensive. I need to know that I've got an army of truth seekers ready to help me if the time comes that she does file a wacky, absurd, and litigious defamation lawsuit. She's already claimed before. She says, I promise, she says, I'm not going to file a defamation lawsuit against him. She said that in our last Medium article. And then she finds reasons to up the ante, which is a crazy person sending her mom death threats. What's really interesting, though, about this, and again, it's called The Night Things Changed. She writes in such a bizarre way that I don't even know if she's able to separate fact from fiction. I imagine she cracks her knuckles and has one of those Chardonnay glasses at night that's full of Monster Energy drink, and she crushes it, and then she She kind of sits her laptop on top of her prosthetic baby bump, and then she just goes to town. I imagine that's sort of the energy she spent as she courted Clayton and used him as one of her latest victims. So she talks about the threats that were made against her mother. What's very interesting is, and again, I don't encourage anyone to look it up, but when you're a part of a court case, just like I'm kind of a public figure, people have looked at my address. It's very easy to find out all these information about her. That's why we've redacted all of it, because we don't want to share with our audience any information that could lead to physical harm towards her. But we have to remember, she's the one who made her case public when she leaked it to the press and made this whole big deal. So people who do their own research and Google their own things find her immediately. I don't. I have been on the defensive this entire time. I've never reached out to her in any way whatsoever that wasn't her, sort of negotiating with her manic threats and things like that. Including, several months ago when I retained a lawyer, thanks to a lot of your donations, we were able to put an end to my communicating with her. That helped me with my mental health. Having so many different lawyers tell me, Dave, what she's doing is ridiculous. It wouldn't hold up in court. You're doing the right thing. Keep going forward. Having lawyers spend hours of their time for free giving me just like personal man-to-man advice. The people that I spoke to, they know who they are. On New Year's Eve, when they could have been with their family and friends celebrating the end of a great year, the start of a new one, working on court documents or doing research to try to help the truth get out. These people I am indebted towards. They know who they are, and I know they hear it loud and clear, my gratitude towards them. To my lawyer and having him deal with her, it's been amazing for me, but those are billable hours. I have to deal with the fact that she's going to send relentless emails and crazy things to my lawyer, clogging up the court system, clogging up his inbox, clogging up domestic violence unit detectives' times. We have FBI agents that are doing wellness checks on her from her own threats. We shared that voicemail already. We have Hannah Clark from the FBI. God bless this lady. God bless Hannah Clark. What a beautiful name Hannah Clark is. Isn't that a beautiful name? She's the HC, the head coach of the FBI, the top of the tier that we've heard from, that has done wellness checks because they have an obligation with taxpayer money to not want this person to commit any physical harm towards herself. It is my belief that the greatest person she should be afraid of in all of this is her own self and what she's capable of. With that said, I strongly, redundantly, and repeatedly strike down anybody who's trying to reach out to her, call her, anyone in her family, make any threats whatsoever. I'm going to move to page 2 here. So page 2, she talks about the 6 months of turmoil, a relentless smear campaign by me, an assault on her mental health. Guys, we have what is quickly approaching like a dozen victims that have come forward in one way or another. Now, she talks about one of them, which I'm not going to get into right now. It's not time to tell that story. She mentions a desperate plea for the threats that her family has received to stop. I agree. I hope the FBI uses whatever resources they have to find out who made those threats. What we do know is that the person making these threats has begun their harassment towards me and DMs towards me and DMs to moderators of my channel and all these other things. They've begun that starting in, I believe, either October or November, for sure by December. The account may have begun around 2015. And people say, oh, it can't be Jane Doe because the account has been around for so long. But what we know is that she's made false accusations against some of these men dating back over a decade. We've got Matt and Andrew and Greg and Mike and Clayton and now Sean, myself, Liz Neptune, Law Talk with Mike, and others that are sources of mine that I believe in any level of defamation suit would come to bat for me. But right now, they don't want to deal with their own livelihood being messed with because she will do that. She will contact your boss. She will contact somebody that can mess with your time. And she will say, if you share your story, there will be hell to pay. These are moves she makes. Luckily for me, with my revenue streams being plenty of different ones, but the private community, the YouTube, the podcast, with all these different revenue streams, we are above one phone call that can get somebody canceled. But we are not above it all. She can make crazy threats. I encourage anyone who feels extremely dejected by this situation to join us on our private Patreon, patreon.com/Dave Neal. If you can't afford the $5 a month, I completely understand. Just do me a solid. Continue to comment, continue to like, continue to share with anybody who may have a platform. We've already seen that the folks like Nick Vial are deleting my name from their conversation, which takes food off of my plates and for my family and for our livelihood. We need people to share our story in ways that'll continue to add bricks that put together provide a defense to all of this lunacy. That's what we need. If I didn't have a platform and she came after me one-on-one, she wins this fight, guys. She wins this because she's weaponized the Me Too movement and so many other, writing out to fertility groups. Maybe the ACLU's been involved, we've heard. So many different ways she can weaponize. She's called the FBI on me, what appears to be multiple times. We've had to get our lawyer involved with the district's attorney over a petty complaint because she's accused me of revenge porn and wild other things. So I know there are people out there saying, Dave, you should have never done this. You should have never done that. To those people, I ask you, take that energy, continue to help us with this fight, but also use some of that to question why other people haven't covered this. I mean, you hate to say it, but this needs to go up the totem pole to much bigger platforms so we can get more bandwidth put in the direction to stop her. It doesn't stop today. It doesn't stop with her dismissing her harassment case against me yesterday. For all I know, I might look out my window in my office right now and see a police car stroll up in my new neighborhood and serve me a cease and desist, or serve me a protective order or something. She already tried to do that. She already tried to embarrass me in front of my landlords by hiring a processing company that was going to be there to slap the paperwork down on me. Luckily, the judge rejected it. But again, I've moved to Tennessee. I don't know if the laws are any different here, but California has a strong, very strong, even better than the federal protection over First Amendment rights. So she weaponizes this, a desperate plea, indifference, inaction, yet the content creator, again, right here, my name's Dave Neal. She doesn't use my name because anyone who searches me, who sees how audacious this is, will come to me and realize, oh my gosh, Dave, you have been doing all the right things and you are the clear victim. I am not playing the victim. I am. Okay, I'm not playing, oh, woe is me, I'm wrecked. No, not at all. I would rather have one of those Men in Black neuralizers and this thing never happened. I wish this never happened. Now, she would use that as, well, he wishes I never existed or whatever. I wish I never knew of her. That's what I'll say. I wish I never knew of her. I don't wish any harm towards her. That would be a worse outcome than an already shitty outcome, is if any harm was done to her or by her. We don't need that whatsoever. But what she fails to mention is all of the people that have gone through therapy, the grown men crying on podcasts because of the mental toll she has wreaked onto them through control, through deceit, through fraud, through all of her attempts to punish people for the crime of not wanting to date her. So she says, the content creator's response, or lack thereof, was a stark testament to where his priorities lie. Despite undeniable proof, he received my email. Yeah, I shared the fucking video. Of course I received. I didn't, but she puts trackers on our email. So if I open the email and don't respond, he read the email. Of course she knows my email. She will be blocked. Moving forward, she will be blocked. I never had to escalate to that. I don't even know how to block somebody. I know how to report spam. I get a lot of spam. I don't know how to block. I've never had to do that before. I don't have any enemies. So this is new territory to me. I'm going to just continue this right now. Where's the third one here? Let me see if I have the third one here. Part 1, part 2. Is this it? I might not have the third page. Okay, so it goes on. You know what? I don't even need to. Oh, here it is. It goes on and on. I'll just share this, I guess. 1 second here. I'm going to pull. I'm doing it a little differently today. I'm just staying on the main page. So it goes on and she shares this thing right here, which is, some screen grabs of this troll coming after her. What's very interesting, and she's been very good at weaponizing the redaction button, is that she had no problem sharing this troll's and threats. It was made towards her mom. She let it air out on their social media long enough to include the address and the phone number of Jane Doe's mom. It reeks of Jussie Smollett to me. How Jussie Smollett left the noose on his neck when he went to the police. Like he was like, he wanted them to see the evidence of what we have now noticed is most likely a complete fabrication of, of the victimization, the weaponized victimization, right? And in her case, what we notice is, and again, these are just things I'm noticing. I hope to find out who this troll is. I really hope the FBI investigates it, because what I've noticed is if I get a subpoena against this person and whatever, they just dodge it. Like Chase J. Jones dodged my request, and I spent all this money legally trying to. Patreon says, we'll provide stuff to you, but you have to get a subpoena. We get a subpoena, they go, oh, Chase J. Jones doesn't even exist. Facebook, Google, it all led to nothing. People just ignored the subpoenas. And we know that even on the federal level that, politicians have just ignored subpoenas. And what's the crime? Like it almost seems like it's such like a, what can be done? So it's my belief that whoever created this troll account calling Jane these crazy things, using the N-word, using the Justice for Clayton hashtag, which again, everyone, this is akin to somebody who like self-harms and says somebody else hurt them. This is akin to when you see like somebody who might paint a swastika on their barn and say, see, there's anti-Semitism happening here. But then you find out they did that because they wanted attention. That does happen. People in today's world weaponize social movements. It's very clear that happens, that people, we've even seen this where we've even seen this with police departments where people will go in as instigators during peaceful protests and break windows and do things to make it cross the line. So then the police can come in and say, oh, this is super dangerous. It feels to me like the same thing is happening right now. So who is this person that is this troll? Well, when you dig into their images, it's clearly innocent images from someone else. Like it's not who they claim to be. We know that. Is it Jane Doe? Is it not? I don't know. It could very easily not be her. It could just be a cuckoo. But what we do know is when you look into the address and the phone number of the lady that claims to be Jane Doe's mom, the troll uses the wrong address and the wrong phone number. Now, do I know that because I know what Jane Doe's address is and phone number? No, I don't know. I know 3 phone numbers in the top of my head. You know what I mean? I know my sister. I know my mom's beeper number from like 1997. I just cannot get it out of my head. And I know my wife's phone number. Like that's all I know. My stepdad's, cell phone number, whatever. I don't know what her number is or her address off the top of my head, but people have looked into it and they have told me, Dave, this troll actually found the address and phone number of the wrong woman who also lives in that town. Not the actual one. So imagine we basically have Jane Doe knowing this isn't even her mom's address. This isn't even her mom's phone number. And therefore lets it live a little bit to show the metaphorical noose around the neck here, to use Jussie Smollett, who, obviously we know that story. And then now when it comes to the article, she redacts it, even though that's not even where her parents live. So by all means, we don't want any harm done whatsoever. But at the same time, we very clearly see how, given half-truths, someone could look at me and say, oh, Dave's a real bad guy here. Luckily, we have a track record of that not being the case. I appreciate all of you so much. I will give a passionate talk today to you that I hope raises the mood on this Friday afternoon. I will give a passionate talk at noon Central Time today as I go live on the Patreon, patreon.com/Dave Neal. If I don't see you there, I totally understand. Continue to share this story. Continue to DM podcasters and content creators and help them help us elevate the truth. That is the only way we get out of this. I'll talk to you guys all in a little bit.